individuals capable of acting for themselves cannot remain on neutral ground. And the more I read that, the more I realized agency only comes down to two choices. And every day it's the same two choices. It doesn't matter what the end result is on those two choices. It doesn't matter what the choices actually are. Agency really comes down to, are you going to rebel or are you going to obey the Lord?
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Best Mission Stories. I'm your host, Will Bozeman, Elder Bozeman on the show. Grateful to have a wonderful guest today, Danny Stansfield and Elder Stansfield, if that's okay to go on the show. I will also just remind everyone who's watching, if you have an amazing mission story and it's the best mission story, I'd be very happy to hear that and get you on the show and talk about it. So reach out to me. The contact info will be on the description of the show. Let's jump right in. Danny, full disclosure, Danny and I have known each other for a while. And you mentioned on numerous occasions, you've mentioned mission stories of all kinds. So I figured, we got to get you on the show, and here we go. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, okay. So usually what we talk about, are there any particular, just most people have some experiences, certain people that they met on their mission, that they may have taught or baptized or something of the sort, something of that nature where that kind of defines their mission. In their mind, they look back and they see 2 years in one thought, and you think of what thing, right? What person, stuff like that. I mean, but ultimately, everybody's got different comfort levels of how much, they want to share of their spiritual experiences, obviously. So, but if you do have an interesting story like that, where would you like to start?
Yeah. Obviously it's been a while since my mission. I served in California in the Roseville mission. And I mean, I don't know how many years ago that was. I think Brigham Young gave me my calling. So it's been that long, at least, it's been a while for my mission, but, I can honestly say it's the best choice I've ever made. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It shaped the rest of my life, and I don't think I'd be complete without it. And I remember crying the day I left that this wasn't longer, that I was just going to have to go back to the real world. And I miss it. I honestly miss it. And so I think personally, the Roseville mission is the greatest mission out there. I was so blessed to be able to go to California. And to be at this mission for sure. So, I was trying to think of like specific experiences or one really big specific experience. I think overall, I think the one thing that I really learned from these experiences is that the gospel is not just supposed to be taught, that the gospel has to be caught. And the more you bring in real spiritual power from the get-go, that they catch this feeling, they catch it. It's like love, you can't really teach that aspect of what love is, I can tell you, but that feeling, there's nothing like it. And having that feeling every day, everywhere I went, having the Spirit literally with you at all times, and people you walk through the door and they feel it. There's nothing more special than that. And I miss that feeling, and it's something I've tried to bring into my own life, but you can see it in their eyes when you leave, that the Spirit is going too. And so I just remember that, like, I want to memorize the scriptures. I want to memorize, we had to memorize our discussions back then, but as much as I memorized it, there was nothing more important than bringing in the Spirit and having them feel that right away. I love that aspect, and no one else can do that. No one else can do what we're able to do. How great, it was just awesome. You know what I mean?
I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. The gospel's not taught, it's caught. And people catch the Spirit, if you will, instead of being taught by a missionary. That's a great concept, really, because I've had lots of people on the show, and some of the stories I've heard have been where a missionary was just fumbling through, like reading a scripture or in another language, completely destroying somebody else's language, trying to teach the gospel, and looking up and seeing people having tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
When they're probably not saying hardly anything right, and that feeling of it's the Spirit that's teaching them right now. But the missionary is the one who's present, and the Spirit's not going to be there except for that the missionary is present and delivering the message. And it almost doesn't matter how poorly that is done, as long as you're there and you're doing it, and they can catch the Spirit, they can feel the Spirit.
Yeah.
But no, I love that you describe it that way. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So please keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, that if anybody is looking to go on a mission, that they would just remember that it's not about, you're going to want to memorize the scriptures. You're going to want to, I don't know if they do discussion memory anymore, but the idea of just understanding the Spirit and how the Spirit works with you, and practicing, like, honestly, it's a skill how the Spirit works with you. And I think the more you work on that, the more successful you're going to be on your mission. And I think that was the most important thing I learned from day one, is just like, the Spirit wants to work with me. I got to get through, my own problems or condition or whatever it is, to let the Spirit, like, this is how we work together. And it's just such an awesome bond that you can get. And I think that's why the law of sacrifice is huge. It's so amazing. And I learned that the more you sacrifice on your mission, small stuff, the more powerful you get to be, the more powerful the gospel, the Spirit goes with you. And I think that's where I learned that fasting can literally solve any problem. There's not a single problem in the world that we have that can't be solved with fasting. And you do that for a day, you do that for 2 days, whatever it is, there is nothing that cannot be solved through fasting. And the Lord, he brought it up when he said, they're trying to cast out demons and they couldn't. And he said, well, these can only come out, through fasting. There was nothing that couldn't be done with a little bit of sacrifice on your mission. And fasting was the one for me that made it such an amazing experience. I knew if I fasted, I showed a little bit of sacrifice, man, you're going to be blessed. And I've tried to take that on my life going forward. Need to do more of it, obviously, but that thing, I took that away, that there's nothing that can be solved through fasting.
I love that. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I love that too. I've had some, I've had some good experiences on the mission fasting as well. If you'll indulge me a minute, I'll tell you one of my quick stories from that. But I had a companion that, for a time, that did not want to be on a mission anymore. He was a bit older. He came out on the mission a bit older. He was a convert to the church. And after about 18 months being in the field, he was just ready to go home. He was like, because he started a working life, went to school, was working and things like that with a family business. And then he, converted and went on a mission. So he was older. And then, matter of fact, he had to have, if I remember correctly, he had to have approval from the presidency to actually go because he was so much older. But he was just ready to go back home. And so he didn't want to do much. I had a hard time with him just because he just didn't want to be there. And so it was really, it's like it was a drag. I was out there trying to find people to teach and experience the mission like you'd want, like everyone imagines. And I had this companion who's just kind of, he just wouldn't do anything, So, transfers were coming up, and one of the things on the mission is you should always appreciate who you have because you never know who you're going to get next.
Yep.
So I worked with him. It's not like we didn't get work done. I just had to figure out a way to manage the work the way that he would, do it. But he got transferred out, and the new elder that came in is someone that I had known who was kind of like a energetic go-getter, and he just added all this energy to our area. And getting back to the concept of fasting, that was the first time in my life where I fasted out of thanks, I think. I've always fasted my whole life, and again, I'll be completely open about that. When I was a kid, I didn't fast a whole lot. Fast for half a day. And as a teenager, it's like I was working on that. I remember, trying to make it for a whole day, and everybody's got all the different rules about what they consider to be 2 meals versus a whole day. And I'm like, it's a letter of the law versus spirit of the law there, And as a missionary, we tried to, stick to a pretty strict schedule of, letter of the law fasting so that we could get examples to people. But in this case, he came to the area and I fasted out of thanks. And it was the first time I did. And the only thing that I asked for was gratitude, thankfulness. I didn't ask for anything. And typically when I was taught for fasting, you fast and you ask for things, blessings, whatever it is you need. And so in that case, that I felt the Spirit in a different way. When I fasted out of thanks, I felt like I really connected. I really connected with the Lord for a moment, just as as I was just grateful, and I wasn't asking for anything. And I wasn't even asking for prayers or blessings for anyone else. It was just a thank you. And that companion, the new companion, it was great. We got a ton of work done, a lot of energy and motivation, and it was awesome. I loved it. But so I can appreciate the fasting concept.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The thing you mentioned about that Thanksgiving, it's so critical. It reminded me when the Jaredites were crossing over and having, just a terrible time in those boats, that you notice it says all their prayers were prayers of thanksgiving. And just that idea of just being thankful and not pleading like, stop this, help us. It was just Thanksgiving. Like, what an amazing concept. And to fast just for Thanksgiving, I've never done that before. I'm definitely gonna put that into my playbook. That's awesome. So
2 thumbs up for that one. There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about, I don't know if you remember these when we were missionaries. I wouldn't pull out my stuff. Do you remember these?
Oh my gosh, you pulled out the old stuff. Yes, the blue plant.
Yes. I forgot all about these,
little notebook, a 3-ring spiral full of all those. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going through because I wanted to see like what story could I have or what was it. And I wrote a note on one, man, that's kind of hit me. And do you mind if I read this?
Yeah, please do.
Because, okay, it says, man, this is something. It says that agency is such that men and women not only can choose obedience or rebellion, but must. They cannot avoid being both free and responsible for their choices. Individuals capable of acting for themselves cannot remain on neutral ground. And the more I read that, the more I realized agency only comes down to 2 choices. And every day it's the same 2 choices. It doesn't matter what the end result is on those 2 choices. It doesn't matter what the choices actually are. Agency really comes down to, are you going to rebel or are you going to obey the Lord? And how are you going to be struck by the devil and then not have choices, or are you going to obey the Lord? And when it came down to that for my choices, I wanted to do that more day to day. And it's something that hit me really hard because that was on my blue paper. I was like, wow, I forgot about that's what I need to remember is that's what agency is. There's only 2 choices, and neutral ground is worse than all of them, and that idea that this is a must, that kind of struck me. I was just looking through my blue binder, and that's what came out as just that little note,
I love that. It's a lot. That is a lot to think about. It's like,
yeah,
we could really spend a whole hour just talking about that, really. But but you're right though. It's especially if you think about your mission preparing you for the rest of your life. Yeah, it does. And some things like that, like those concepts you just learned, you take those with you. And it's like there is no neutral choice. There's a decision. Everything that you do in your life is going to be a decision, and you're not going to be able to stand still. But standing still is a choice, and I've been taught that my whole life. It's like you can't just stand still on something. You have to actually decide, and standing still is your decision. And that oftentimes means no. It's like, you're deciding no because you're not taking an action or whatever the case is. There's all different scenarios, but and it really hits you that the gospel is an active thing. It's an active life. It's a proactive movement, forward momentum. You don't just sit still. So that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. And I was going to think, this all came down to, kind of brought up one instance on my mission. I was with a new companion, and honestly, how that you had that companion that you did not want to be with at that point. I was that companion for some people, I have to admit. And I was so driven on my mission that I was not very lenient on things, and kind of a messy companion too. You've had that companion. That was me too for a while, And so I was brought into this area, and this elder was not excited to have me. I could tell, and he knew they'd heard things that about me at the time. And so he was not excited to have me, but we ended up being like best friends. And the spirit was so strong every day because we were just so devoted to just trying to bring in the gospel. And I remember we were fasting one day, and he kind of looked at me and I looked at him, and I said, we know what we got to do, don't we? And we were going to skip our P Day and work on our P Day, which, as you know, as a mission, P Day was like, so you just look forward to P Day every week, but we're like, okay, we're going to skip it and we're going to work this P Day. We're going to sacrifice this and we're just going to go out and work. And we woke up first thing in the morning and we just worked on our P Day. And that was such a powerful day. We ran into this one person, and I don't know if we're allowed to say real name, so I'll just say his first name. His name is Gaetano. And it was one of those situations where you just keep knocking doors. You just keep knocking doors, like, okay, just one more door. We'll just do one more door. We'll just keep doing one more door, just one more door. And we ran into this person, and it was such an amazing first discussion. The Spirit was there from the get-go, and we handed him the Book of Mormon. We're like, okay, we challenge him to read, 3rd Nephi, 11, and, just the main chapters you give them. And we're like, well, if you'd like, we can come back the next day or two. And he's like, yeah, come back tomorrow, please. So we came back the next day, and we're like, did you read those passages? He's like, yes, I loved them so much. I loved Nephi. I loved Alma. Nephi. I'm like, yeah. And we're like, wait, you read the whole thing? He's like, I read the whole thing. I read the whole thing.
Wow.
He just stayed up and read the whole thing. And just, it was incredible, just amazing. And every discussion was like that with him. And then he kind of told us his story. And he said that he was born in Brazil, and there were triplets. He was one of the triplets. Right. And that one of their brothers, they didn't know, was stolen at birth. And, he kind of spent his whole life looking for him. And that's what brought him to America, is he heard that he'd been in America. And he spent his whole life kind of looking for his brother. It's kind of a really deep, interesting story.
Wow.
And so we kept teaching him about the gospel, and he committed to being baptized in the third discussion. He's like, I cannot wait to be baptized. Let's do this. And so we were setting up all this time for him to be baptized. And me and my companion were just going back and forth because we're like, well, who's going to baptize him? And every time this came up, it's like, not you. Nobody here is going to baptize him. You guys are not the ones. I'm like, okay, we'll go talk to the bishop and see the bishop will baptize him and take care of this. And so we did this, and we talked to the bishop, and we said this prayer, and we're like, yes, we know who's gonna, we know who's gonna baptize him. So we went and talked to Gentano, and we're like, hey, we think we know you're gonna baptize him. And dude, he was stone quiet. He was just, he was in tears already, just bawling his eyes out. We're like, what's going on? And he's like, I found my brother.
Oh.
We're like, really? And he's like, yeah, he lives 4 blocks from me.
What?
He lived 4 blocks from him.
Wow.
Yes. And his brother was a member of the church.
Make me cry, man.
Yeah. So his brother ended up baptizing him.
No way. No, his brother actually was able to baptize him too, on top of that.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, just unbelievable, just an unbelievable thing. And it was just that opportunity to just sacrifice, just a little bit. But to have that experience for us, and it was that week, and I have a mission. I mean, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that experience. But it all came down to those things of just doing what you're supposed to be doing, bringing in the Spirit, and letting the Lord take over from there, and just listening, and then just being willing to sacrifice, man. It just, yeah, I love that experience. I love that whole thing.
That is a story. It's one of the best stories. That's amazing. I mean, but seriously though, so he came to America looking for his brother who had been separated at birth, and you said he was kidnapped.
He was kidnapped, yes. Kidnapped? And he didn't even know that he had a brother, because he didn't even know about this until he was in his 20s, and he found out that I wish I could remember the story, because he told me the story of how he actually found out, but he learned that he'd been kidnapped and either sold or brought here to the States. And that's the last thing. And unfortunately, I don't remember what actually happened at that point. Wow. But yeah, that's how he.
But his brother was already a member of the church, and wow.
Lived like 4 blocks, like literally lived in the same neighborhood, 4 blocks down the road. Yeah.
I mean, and all of that came from because when you're a missionary, or even afterwards, and the rest of your life, you can backtrack things that happen to certain, I guess I don't know what the right word is, points, certain, I don't know what the right word is, transition points or whatever decisions it is. But at that moment, you guys both felt like you needed to work on P-Day, and you both knew it. Listening to the Spirit, you would have probably felt it. And I mean, what's interesting is that you could have just followed the rule and just say, nope, P-Day's P-Day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and do my laundry, do some grocery shopping, and I'm gonna,
Play basketball.
play some basketball, and whatever. But you guys went out and worked, and then that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. We actually, I think the thing that was most remarkable for me is to see how much the Lord had prepared this. I mean, to think, and it's something I've taken on my life now is how much we think we know what's in store, or we think we know the right answer. The whole idea that his brother was stolen, like how tragic is that? How mad could he have been his whole life at what had happened? How mad? Why? And he had every right to be upset. And then that's I found out in his 20s, how angry could he have been? And then even for us, like what would have happened if we hadn't fasted, if we hadn't sacrificed? But the Lord knew. And this whole thing was set up for this one moment. And it just makes me realize, like, you just got to trust in him. You got to trust him that he knows what he's doing. And I think the scripture that has always struck me in life, especially later in life as I've had complications, is this whole idea with Nephi. And, he's so righteous, and he's given this task to go get the plates and sell them, right? And go trade these plates and do all this stuff. But the plan is so perfect. It's so amazing. And he's so pumped about it. And he's even telling his brothers, like, look, listen, the Lord is delivering this. Like, this is going to happen. And then the plan couldn't have gone any worse. It couldn't have gone any worse. And I mean, what a disaster. It couldn't have gone any worse. And I got to admit, if that was me at that moment, I would have been questioning a lot of things. I think I would have been like, hey, look, bro, you told me this is what's supposed to happen. I know clearly this is supposed to happen. I've told my family, my brothers, believe in the Lord. And it could not have gone any worse. But the thing that I loved is he's like, okay, I know the Lord has something now. I'm going to do whatever you tell me. And I'm just going to go in, but you tell me what to do from here on out. Man, that is awesome. And then to see the plan, fall into place. And it's just made me realize how often it's just kind of that way of just the faith, the trial is there for a reason. It would have been so easy if it just worked out for Nephi. He would have had no trial.
Right.
But that's kind of what I've realized in my life is we just don't know. And it's got to be patient. The Lord knows, just trust him. And that was kind of one of those situations. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's true. I mean, without the trial, you wouldn't have the experience, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not supposed to just be given everything. No, I mean, yeah, and stories like Nephi are good stories to remember for that. But yeah, as a missionary, I mean, look, not everything goes right as a missionary. And that's something that I've taken that, in all the people that I've talked to on the show here, that does bring up memories of the investigators that didn't get baptized, the people who fell away from the path, they're on the way. In fact, I think about this every now and then. There was this part member family that we were teaching. So the wife was a member, the husband wasn't. And they had kids, and the kids were a bit older. We were teaching kind of everybody, but the dad was, he wasn't interested at first, and then he became interested. And it's one of those things. It's like really hard to remember where he was in the process, because we were teaching a couple of their adult children at the house, and they were interested because, again, their mom was a member, so they were interested in the church that their mom grew up in, and they wanted to learn about it, right? So that was the process. But the husband finally came around and wanted to learn more. And if I remember correctly, I only maybe got like 1 or 2 lessons in with them, and then I got transferred, because I don't remember doing very many lessons with him actually in the room. It was everybody else, but I got transferred away, and it was maybe like a few months later I got a call from the wife telling me that he passed away.
Oh man.
He had an accident and he had died, and she wanted to tell me personally that she was grateful for that. He apparently told her that he connected with me in some of the conversations that we had there. And she just said that he didn't get baptized yet, but she felt like he actually had a change of heart before he passed. So she's more than anyone else would know that. But that was one of those things I used to think back on. I mean, like, there aren't a lot of sad things like that happen as a missionary. Like, that was a great, start, but then he didn't actually, complete the knowledge and the journey. Oh no, we know that there's a chance after this life. We know that.
Right.
But it was just at the time I was thinking, like, I wish I could have stayed. I wish I could have stayed and finished teaching him and helped him to get baptized and everything in this life. But I couldn't, and I moved.
Yeah.
And I just, I thought about that. I thought about him for, since I left the mission.
Yeah.
It's somebody I thought about during the mission the whole time, and ever since I left. It's something that it's undone, and I can't go back and fix it. But it was something that, if I'm thinking to myself, I wish I would have spent more time talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I didn't, because we were in the middle of trying to teach, somebody else. And so I didn't spend a lot of time talking to him because he didn't seem like he was that interested till the very end. So anyways, it's one of those things where, you can second guess yourself, but I didn't know that he had, such an impact. I didn't know that we had such an impact at the time, but I'm glad that we did,
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
So,
hey, I was gonna ask you.
Go ahead.
I've known you since you were a bishop. What did you take from your mission to help you in your bishop calling, your bishopric calling?
I've never been a bishop.
Oh, wait, yes, you were, weren't you?
No.
Were you in the bishopric though?
No, I was young men's president.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you served with. Oh, never mind.
Yep. I was young men's president, but
Gotcha.
but I will say though that I love serving with the young men and being able to tell mission stories. Something that I've done ever since I've been in. I've taught Sunday school a couple different times, and then taught and then was the young men's president and worked with the young men for years, and every time we get to start talking about missionary work, I'm all like, let's go. I want to tell you some stories.
Nice.
I've got a bunch of stories. It's been fun. And I feel like you see all these boys who are thinking about going on mission and they're getting ready to go. And you start telling some of these stories and like, you can see the adventure welling up inside them. They want to go and they want to go out and have that adventure. They want to go out and experience those stories, and, it's some of it is sincere and very spiritual. Some of it's just fun. And, it's like mission it's not quote unquote all work, it's like,
Right.
A lot of it is just fun. I mean, I did lots of really exciting, fun things on P days, I mean, it's like, I served in Spokane, Washington. So we were, one of my areas was right in like Wenatchee, Washington, and in like, Selah and Yakima, Washington on the mountain range. Mountain biking. I mean, I went on some monster mountain bike rides with the whole zone, on a P day, just stuff like, adventures, but, other fun things too. Like, we were grocery shopping and, on a P day. And I remember, I was talking to one of the elders and we were talking about, they're like, how's it, some people could just talk to other people that when you start sharing the gospel as a message, you convert into formal. Like, it's almost how, like, I don't know if you know how kind of in the world of sales, like you could either just talk to somebody normally, or you could start trying to sell something.
Right.
And the moment you start selling something, you lock up and become weird.
Right.
It's like, but if you just talk to them, you just talk to them. And I would tell everybody, it's like, well, you're not selling anything here. I mean, your presence is, like you said earlier, your presence is bringing the Spirit. So you're not selling something, but you do need to be able to talk to people. And then issue number one is being able to have a real conversation with somebody where you truly are interested in just having a conversation. There's no ulterior motive. And that's what I used to try and do as much as I could. Just talk to somebody. If they did not ask about the church, then I wouldn't say anything, but I'm wearing a glaring name tag here. That I'm a missionary, and more often than not, if you have a really one-on-one personal conversation with somebody, like they're a person and not a quote unquote a prospect to teach, if you talk to them normally, they'll eventually ask about what you're doing. Like, I mean,
Right.
like, you don't have to try and bring it up. They'll just ask, well, hey, I see you're wearing a name tag, you
Both
know.
y'all's first name is Elmer?
Yeah.
No, this is Elder. Yes.
But we were at the, I told this guy, I was like, hey, I was like, it's just really easy. And I said, you just talk to people. And I was like, see, I said, let's try this. And there's at the milk section, like, you know, where you open up the door and grab, you know, the gallon of milk or whatever. And there was a guy that was stocking milk in the back. And I was all like, hey, and he was like, hey. And I was like, having fun? He was like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm stocking milk in the back.
Uh-huh.
I was like, have you ever heard of our church before? And he was like, which one? I was like, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he was like, yeah. And I was all like, you know anybody who's a member of the church? He's like, actually, I have some friends from school who are members of your church. And I was all like, how would you like to do a lesson about Jesus Christ? And he was like, sure. And like, this was in the milk aisle. We were
Yeah.
talking through the door, and the cold air was rushing out. And I remember, like, I just thought to myself, this is hilarious, because you never know where someone is going to want to actually talk to you. And he's like, sure. And he wrote his number down, name and number, everything down on the paper. And I remember I got transferred shortly after, so I think he started getting taught, but not by me. I don't remember all the details after that. When you leave somewhere, it's like a ghost. It's like a ghost area. You don't hear anything else. It's like
Right.
you walk away from it, and everything's just it's there, and it's all gone. And you walk to somewhere completely new. But I mean, it was just an example of how you can just talk to somebody. I didn't you know, act like there was something I was trying to do, but I was just, you know, telling them what we're doing. So, I mean, you can really talk to anybody. And half the time, like I said, they'll ask you, like, well, what are you doing? What's this thing? Why do you wear those name tags? You know? So, but yeah, okay. So I know we're talking about you. So yes, yes, back to you. Roseville, California.
Roseville, California. Yes, sir.
Yep. All right. So, tell us more about some of the experiences you've had in Roseville. Any other people you taught, situations, scenarios?
Man, honestly, I could go all day, and
Yep.
each story, honestly, is very similar to the one I had. Which, I mean, like, it was, that mission was just incredible, and there was just miracle after miracle, and it all really came down to just how much we wanted to, you know, I mean, just sacrifice and just work and just work. And I think that's the thing. For me, my mission was fun, but I did not waste a minute. Every minute I was working, I could be working, was a minute I was working. And I think I was so grateful for my president for really instilling that into us. Just do the work, just get the work in. And every time we did that, there was just more and more blessings. I remember we one time tracked it into, and it was, again, one of those situations like we'd done 500 doors. We're like, we'll just do a couple more. And we tracked it into this Catholic priest. And we're like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. And he invited us in the house, and we had just the most wonderful conversation with him. And I'd never heard this before. And since then I've heard this, but he said, I have been studying the Book of Mormon, and I've been studying it, and it is one of the most incredible books I've ever read. And I am convinced it's either us or you. It's either Catholic Church or it's the Mormon Church. There can be no other option. And I was like, all right, explain that to me. He's like, it's because either the gospel was restored, the priesthood was restored, or the priesthood just continued. Everything else has to be an offshoot. They either came from us or they're an offshoot of us. And that's not, Christianity is not going to be an offshoot of another religion. So it's either us or you. And I really thought about it. The more I thought about it, I mean, like, it's very true. You either had the priesthood or the priesthood was restored. And he said, the more I've read the Book of Mormon, the more I'm concerned that it's probably you guys. And
Wow.
he asked me to never contact him again. And we passed on the information to him, and he's like, I teach every Sunday, and this is what I've had my whole life. And it's actually one of those moments that I wish, like you had, I was like, you know what, I'll probably talk to him again, but I've never heard back. And it's one of those things I regret the most, you know, is just see what actually happened with him. But it was just an incredible moment just to have that moment come up. I think, speaking of regrets and how much I love my mission, is I remember there's this one time we were in Oroville, I believe, and we decided to do tracting, but we were just going to give blessings, just give blessings. We're going to the door and it's like, if anybody's sick, anybody's afflicted, we're here to give blessings. And we attracted door after door after door that way. And we kept giving blessings. And it was so powerful because, it's just one of those things. You don't know what you're going to say, you know what you're going to do, and you realize I'm not doing anything. The Lord is in control here. And I tell you, every time we gave a blessing, there was miraculous healing happening. And they just kept getting more and more like extreme opportunities to give blessings. And then members of the ward were calling us more often to give blessings, and it did not matter. The Lord was working, and there was healing happening on the spot. So much that we realized, not only is this real, but we should be doing this more often. Like this should be happening all the time. And there were just more opportunities and things you were like, man, I can't believe I'm about to say this, because this is just a test of faith, but the Lord's asking to say this. You're healed. Like you're healed. And it would just happen more often. And then I remember very specifically, like my whole goal in my mission is no matter what the Spirit says, I'm never going to say no. It doesn't matter how crazy it sounds. I will do whatever he says. I will do whatever he says. And I remember we had the stake mission president. His wife was not a member, and she was so sick, so severely sick. And we've been doing this over and over. And the mission president, the stake mission president, losing his mind. It's like, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to go watch these blessings and do this, And so, but his wife came and was like, hey, I've got this extreme cancer. I've got these things. I really want a blessing, and I want a blessing. And we're like, no problem. So we went to go give her a blessing. And I mean, I've never had a prompting so strong as to tell her, just take 3 steps and you'll be healed. And it was so powerful. It was the most powerful prompting I've ever had. I mean, it was so powerful. And I chickened out. I couldn't do it. And it was the very first time in my whole mission that I had said no to the Spirit. And just that feeling alone, I've never had more regret in my life. Now, of course, I give her a blessing that, things will be okay. And the doctors blessed all that stuff. But the Spirit was so strong. And she was in a wheelchair and like, take 3 steps and you'll be healed. And the thing is, we've been giving blessings that had been just miraculous blessings, but this is one of those ones. And I knew the Spirit was like, you are ready for these things. And we've been doing these things. And I kept going back and forth whether to say it or not. And I didn't do it. And it all stopped. All the blessings stopped. And it was a moment I'll never forget of like, we work with who's ready, and you were ready. But now that you're not, we've got to go work with other people who are ready to do this, because we got to keep getting this going. And I've never had promptings like that again. And I'm sure if I ever really wanted to get up to that spiritual level, I'm sure I could. But I'm telling you, it ate at my soul, eats to my soul to this day, And so when you talk about regrets, that is my only regret that I can really recall on my mission, is just that moment of like, I chickened out, and oh my gosh, it eats at my soul. It eats at my soul.
All right, man, there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say there. But going back to the beginning when you said that you started doing it more and more. I mean, like I would imagine people need blessings more than we probably think.
We were doing it honestly, sometimes up to 6 or 7 times a day. We were getting called into the hospital. I mean, everybody, it was just all the time, all of a sudden. And I think once people realized this was a thing, and we would go door to door, and you would think you're not getting in these doors. It was happening more often, like, yes, please. And they would be really sick and like casting out demons. I mean, that whole thing, no problem. That's what we're here for. And that was easy. I mean, not easy, but the Lord prompted it and you did it. You know what I mean? But for some reason, this one got me. But the Spirit was so strong every second of the day. You're floating. I mean, just floating. The revelation that you're getting and just the spiritual peace that you have every single of the day, there is nothing else you want to be doing. You're doing exactly what the Lord wanted you to be doing. I mean, can you beat that feeling? It was just incredible. And then I blew it. So. Oh man. But okay. Now you made me cry a little bit. But I will say this though, but like you never forgot that though, right? No.
I mean, I guess you could say that you had used that, that experience has taught you to never stop, right? Never, when you do feel the prompting, don't hold back.
Yes. And since that day, I can't say that I've never said no before. I'm sure there's been a lot of time since, but it just reminds me, you've got to just remember the Lord has got this under control, and you were the vessel at that time. You just got to trust him, the faith that comes with that. It's just so powerful. I mean, it's such, when you think about it, that is the purpose we're here for. That's it, man. come here, understand the Spirit, understand how to use it to gain a testimony, and then to have our trials of faith and continually do that over and over and trust in the Lord. Like, that is what we're supposed to be doing. And I forget that on a daily basis, but that's it, man.
Man, I don't know. That is amazing. That really is an amazing story. Yeah, that is truly amazing. Thank you for telling everybody.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, you got me thinking about all the experiences I've had too on different things like that, and yeah, man, we could talk for hours. We could talk for
Yeah,
hours.
no, we could, man. We always
Um,
do.
I know. Okay, all right. Okay, so other stories that you would want people to hear. Anything else that comes to mind from your mission? Something that you would want to, share that people would hear, and hopefully this will be in video form for eternity now, right?
Yeah.
Digital eternity. So yes, anything else that comes to mind as being something that you want people to hear?
I can't really think of a story. I mean, there's just so many,
Yeah.
but I think most importantly is just how real the gospel is and just how real every aspect of it is. And, the scriptures say in John, the truth will set you free. And we are the only ones who have the truth. Like, how free should we? I mean, that is amazing. The truth will set you free. And we have that. I mean, what a blessing. What a blessing. And it just reminds me that this is the purpose, that this is why we're here. And just go on a mission. That's it.
Oh, gosh, Danny. Thank you. I'm grateful that you wanted to do this, wanted to do this, and wanted to talk through this. I appreciate that.
Me too.
One of the things I'm hoping for with this show is that it will inspire people to take some action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that there's somebody out there who is thinking about a mission, and I hope these stories inspire them to go get their own stories.
I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm so glad you're doing this. It's so essential.
I thank you. I mean, like I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I put it off. Just like you're talking about, it's like you feel a prompting if you don't act. It's like, how many times does I have to tell you? And I've had lots of things like that in life, and I felt the prompting to do this a long time ago, and I just kept putting it off because I tell myself I got other things. I got life and kids and family and work and all these other things, and also even church stuff, and you got all these things. And then this is still in the back of your mind saying, like, told you to do this. And honestly, I feel like this is like everyone would say, just talking with somebody about their mission, I feel like I'm the one-on-one beneficiary of the story here. And it makes me think about my mission, makes me think about people I taught. Yeah, I mean, and again, hoping somebody out there will hear your story and think, you know what, I want that. I want to feel that experience. I want to go out. I want to serve. I want to listen to the Spirit. I want to be directed, like you just said. When you are going about the Lord's work on a daily basis with the Spirit, you feel like you're floating.
Mm-hmm.
And
so true.
Nothing can hurt. Nothing can hurt you. I mean, nothing can. Nothing. Yeah, I don't want to. Suggest that it's always going to be easy, but nothing can, when you're on the Lord's errand, like nothing can actually harm you. It's the Lord's errand.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about it the most, is that day to day we make decisions, and some of those decisions are good, some of those are bad, but you're always wondering sometimes, what is the best thing I could be doing right now? If I could be doing one thing right now, what is the best thing I could be doing right now? And that's the thing, for 2 years, I never had to question that. There is nothing better I could be doing. There is nothing better I could be doing. Like, once you make that decision, the life just becomes so easy. Of just like, this is what I do. and there's literally nothing on the planet I'd be doing that's better than this. Like, and that's why you feel like you're floating, because you wake up every morning knowing you're in the right place at the right time, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. 100% yes. Danny, I just want to say thank you again
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
sharing the stories, helping to share the experience of being a missionary for the people that haven't been yet, and for those who have been, and I'm hoping too. I've heard back from several people that I've talked to already that just talking back through their mission just gave them a fresh boost of the spirit.
It did for me. It really has for me. I love it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping it does good for you. It's doing good for me. I hope there's other people out there it's going to help as well. And I will, on that note, I mean, we'll wrap up here. You've got a life too, right? Can't spend all day on the phone with me here. But I just want to say thank you again. And for everybody out here who is listening, if you have a question about the show, if you have a question about serving a mission, happy to talk about that. I'm sure Danny would be open to someone reaching out too. If you want to talk to Danny about his mission more, we can do that as well. Just reach out to us. We'll put the contact info in the show description. And also too, I just want to point out, every now and then I look up and I see you've got those antique those antique papers hanging on the wall. It's really cool. You got a bit of a historian in you, for things like that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That life after the mission is there's all sorts. You get to all the hobbies, right? Everything else
for sure.
Yeah, so you get all the cool stuff that you can do after, but you got to get the mission first, then you can do all that other stuff. Yeah. So, well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching the best mission stories, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. And if you have a mission story that you would like to share, reach out to us on the show and we'll get you on as well. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.